Hey everyone, hope everybody is having a great Thursday afternoon. We're going to give just a second for everybody to jump on in. And then happy to have, as always, Amy with me. We've got some exciting things to talk about today. A topic that has been very popular. And so we kind of touched on this a little bit when the last session that we did when we talked about some of the predictions for 2026. So we're going to take a deeper dive into something that is, again, on so many people's mind is with the advent of ChatGPT and more AI. How do we make sure that AI is recommending us? And so, with that in mind, and I don't know, it looks like Jim may have raised his hand. Amy, you can check in the chat if there's any questions or anything, and then feel free to interrupt me if there are. But if not, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can get started. Um, Awesome. And Amy, I'm assuming you can see my screen.
I can, you're good.
Great. Okay. So with that in mind, we will dive in. This is something that I've been wanting to do a lot. I know, Amy, we've had a lot of discussions as far as this because I've got some opinions on this. Unfortunately, I'll go ahead and get this out of the way. There is a lot of bad information out there when it comes to how to optimize for AI. And just for the sake of today, when we talk about AI optimization, we're going to call it AEO, answer engine optimization. So like I said, there's a lot of bad information out there. I've heard everything from it's totally different from SEO. I've heard that you've got to go out and create 50, 60, 70 articles that are just basically AI slop that you then post on your site and you speak in third person and all this stuff that just basically to spam your own site. The reality is, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. You can't just go out and have AI generate you 50 articles and then magically you're going to show up as number one. But the good news is, after you get done with this session today, you're going to know exactly step by step how to do it. It's not terribly difficult to do. It does take some work, but the super thing we are excited about is we've been hard at work creating a really neat tool that will walk you through exactly how to do this. Give you real-time feedback as far as what your online presence is focused on, make sure that you're speaking to the right audience, all those things. And best of all, it's the word that everyone loves to hear. It is free. There's no gotcha behind it. You can use it absolutely free. We're putting it as part of DAC Lab, but you don't have to be a DAC Lab subscriber to have this. So even if you don't pay for DAC Lab, this is going to be a totally free tool. And we just wanted to do that because we felt it was important because there was so much misinformation out there. We felt it was important to give this tool to everyone, regardless of if they're a subscriber or not. So, with that in mind, so like I said, I've seen it all. The clickbait, the hype is at an all-time high. Everyone's saying that SEO is dead and AEO or AI optimization is where it's at. And I'll tell you, kind of start with the ugly truth behind it. The reason why people say this is because they want to play to this kind of guru status. They want to play to the fact of like, oh, you have to trust us. It's a totally new thing, and you have to spend money to do this, and you can't do it on your own because we've got this magical formula. The reality is that that is not the truth. One of the things that I always focus on is good SEO is the exact same. The way you get good search engine optimization is the exact same way you get good AEO, answer engine optimization. And most importantly, it is the exact same way you get what I consider HBO, human behavior optimization. And Google's done this for a while now, where essentially it says go out and create a site, create content that is actually valuable to a human, that actually contributes, gives something back to society, and naturally things will fall into place from both a search engine optimization and an answer engine optimization standpoint. So, and we're going to go into detail exactly what that looks like and how that is. By the way, when I talk about how to get ChatGPT to recommend you, I'm not specifically talking about ChatGPT. I'm kind of lumping all of the chatbots inside of this as a whole, because the other good thing about this is that there's not necessarily a magic formula where ChatGPT, you have to do one thing, and then for Claude to recommend you, you have to do something totally different. The rules and some of the best practices, they all kind of use the same back end ranking algorithm, and so we'll talk about that. So we'll just when I talk about ChatGPT, that will be kind of relevant to the broader chat bots and LLMs, if you will, because the reality is that ChatGPT, it owns the brand of chatbots. My wife, it's interesting. I've heard other people talk about this where she just calls it chat. And at first, when ChatGPT came out, I kind of thought like, oh man, they messed up. This is such a bad branding play because ChatGPT, that sounds very technical. It doesn't sound very consumer friendly. But I guess they were right in the long run because everyone knows ChatGPT, and then for short, they just call it chat. And so now, when everyone thinks about asking chat, we all just kind of know it as chat or ChatGPT. But while ChatGPT kind of owns the brand of AI chatbots, the reality is that Google still owns the market share. Right now, Google and Gemini that powers Google, that's their AI chatbot, gets about 15 times the amount of traffic that ChatGPT gets. So there's still a huge opportunity. And the reality is that Google still just gets a massive amount of market share and search and just traffic volume on a day-to-day basis, and dwarfs ChatGPT in comparison to just simply looking at market share and how much traffic it gets. So, the other thing that is really interesting that is evolving, where we used to focus on search engine optimization, because why? We want Google to give us that free traffic, right? Well, the reality is now that so much of the traffic or the searches that's happening on Google is what's considered zero-click searches. And what I mean by that is if I ask Google, "What's the weather?" Yes, it's going to give me, a zillion blue links of all of the Weather Channel and everything like that. But most importantly, it's going to tell me exactly what the weather is currently, as well as the 5-day forecast. So I don't have to click on any of those sites. That means that ChatGPT, Google, and therefore Google's they incorporate their AI overviews. It's sending a lot less traffic to websites, but it's more important that the website is the kind of keeper of information. So what you want to do, and the reason why, again, AEO, SEO, all of your quote unquote optimization is so important is because if Google and these other places are sending you less traffic, is that much more vital that when Google or ChatGPT or any of those AI bots are recommending a service, it's more important than ever that they recommend you. And so we're going to talk exactly how to do that today. So, and I'll give you real quick. Let me jump over here and show kind of an example. When I say AI overview, I just ask who's the ideal real estate team and to use in Clayton, North Carolina. Some of this is just simply because I'm logged in. It's going to give me feedback on the ads that we're running, but it gives you all of the links, like I said, but then it gives you that AI overview and it starts to list, hey, the ideal real estate team in Clayton is Riverwild Real Estate, known for new construction, Beth Hines, highly reviewed, Hometown Realty, overall sales volume, Linda Trevor. It gives a few. Thankfully, we've got a lot of, I think all of those are our clients. So we're doing something right. That's a good thing to see. But yeah, so the key thing there is it's automatically recommending agents, and we want to make sure that you are going to be at the top of the list when it starts to recommend. And of course, all of those are cited. So if you do click on one of these people, it's interesting. It'll actually not even take you to their website, but take you to a search result for those particular keywords. Of course, that's because they want to make that money off of those ads and everything. So when I say AI overview, that's where within Google you're seeing this more and more. A lot of these searches are going to give you the answer in addition to all of the exact information for the various websites and everything. So. That's what I mean by those AI overview. So I think one thing that's in just kind of a side note here, where I think that who's going to win and who, in my mind, is kind of winning the AI race right now is Gemini. That's from Google, and they were kind of late to the party. I think they're very much catching up. One of the reasons why I think it's going to be so important to that Gemini is going to be a major player. Think about it. Google, Gmail, how much training data do they have from emails through Gmail? They own obviously YouTube, so that's a massive amount of training data. We talked about right now, there's still a ton of market share. Obviously, they own search, and so they get a lot of traffic from there. And then, not to geek out too much here, but they own or they have their own types of processors where they've just recently kind of figured out a way to leverage a lot of their existing servers and their existing processors that they were using to power search to now do that training data and to power AI. So that's one of the things that they've really started to accelerate in when it comes to things like imagery and some of the tools with AI. So that's kind of my 2 cents there. And then from because of that, what you're really going to focus on when we talk about again today when we're talking about search engine optimization and AI optimization or AEO, we're not to throw out too many alphabet soup here, but really that boils down to how does that translate experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. That's really, and if you think like Amy, if you're getting ready to pick a real estate agent, I think those four key words would be probably your deciding factor too, right? If you're, and so again, goes back to that graphic we showed that SEO, search engine optimization, answer engine optimization, and human optimization, all of those that human behavior optimization, they're all looking for the same thing. It's that experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So, um, so we're going to talk one more thing and then get into the tool. And this is if you haven't kind of the things flying over your head now, we're going to get a little bit geeky. But Amy, what I want you to do, go ahead and unmute because I need you to keep me honest during this part. I love being, geeking out on this stuff, and so you're going to have to rein me in if I get too technical here. But in order to understand, how to optimize, we have to take a very quick little detour on how LLMs work. And I'll show you this graphic. It looks technical, but it's really boils down to three simple things. As number one is their trained data. So basically, how AI works, it goes out and surfs the web, searches all of the information, and that is the trained data. So think about that as It's frozen information. It's one time it searches the web, and then when it comes back, it's like, I'm done. So if something happens afterwards, then they don't go back and well, if they create a new model, but that training could take a year. It could take a months. It could take a very long time to go out and literally crawl all of the content and have it train on the web. So they don't do that too often. And that's when these new models come out. We've heard about ChatGPT 4 or 5.2, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of a snapshot in time of the trained data. So simple so far, right? Are we good?
Yeah, I think we're still at a good pace.
All right. So the next thing that where chatbots have the information is that it sounds complicated, but what they call retrieval augmentation. And basically, this is you've got your trained data and you augment it with real-time data. So if they've trained the data and then I'll give you a good example. As I was testing this, I asked just using trained data. I said, "What do you know about DAC Well, DAC Lab's only been around for a couple of months, and it didn't know anything about DAC Lab if we just look at the trained data. But if you ask ChatGPT or something about DAC Lab, it knows it because it goes out and searches and gives those live web results. That's why you can ask ChatGPT about the game, the NBA game that happened last night or something like that, because it's augmenting with this live website data, also augmented based off of memories, etc. And then the third thing is any additional tools or system prompts. So, OpenAI or ChatGPT will say, "Hey, when you're answering this, try to be helpful, suggest things, et cetera, et cetera." So that is kind of the extras. The
But
interesting,
Brad, just to point out real quick too,
yeah,
a lot of times we will see that activity happening when we're in ChatGPT for specifically that one that model that it will say retrieving or it will say,
yep,
going
searching the
online,
web.
those kind of things.
Good
Yeah.
point. Yep, exactly, exactly. And so when everyone right now is talking about optimization, they look at, hey, who do you recommend for, to what agent do you recommend in Raleigh? And then it goes out and surfs the web and finds, ratemyagent.com or a particular thing, and it says, oh, based off of this person has a lot of reviews. It's one factor, but that's leaning into the real-time results. So essentially, again, this is why SEO and AEO is the same. It's doing a live search and then returning that search in again in real time. So if you don't rank in the search engines, then that's going to be a problem. That's why it's so, focused hand in hand. And so that's where, a lot of people kind of spend a lot of time. So where agents think is important there. What's really important is making sure that you show up in that pre-trained data or that overall data. And so we'll do a quick exercise. If you go to, we'll go to let's jump over here and we'll go to the very bottom here and talk to the chat because this chat is specifically focused on the pre-trained data, right? So if I say, tell me everything you know about Linda Craft Team Realtors. So it's probably going to say, okay, so they're a well-known residential real estate team that operates in the major brokerage. You know, that blah blah blah. Today it gives you some, verify. And then yeah, yes, that's the team and Raleigh. Give me more info. Um, and so it's a more recognized brand. Here's their business model, positioning, all that kind of stuff. So This is all based off of it's in real time. If you don't have DAC you also what you can do is go to any chat GPT or Gemini or other, and you can, say without searching the web, without any external resources, tell me what you know about, you know, uh, what you know about this brand or who you are or your name or what have you. That ensures that you are going to be, kind of show up in that trained data. And then from there, you can, then you can see what's been augmented with the additional web results. So it's super important to have a good online presence to make sure that you show up in the pre-trained data. So now that we have all the information, and some people on the webinar, I'm sure, are like, Brad, who cares about that? Just tell me what I need to do. Just give me the easy button. And so here's the easy button that we have created that goes through and analyzes all of this information. So if you go to DAC Lab. Again, even if you don't have an active subscription, all you need to do is put your name and email, and then when it asks for the payment, you can close that out, and you'll be able to access the web page audit without having to have an active subscription. Of course, if you are a subscriber, you get all the other tools like the virtual staging and everything like that. So if you go here, you can analyze any page. You can analyze your home page. You can analyze your an internal page. And this really does two things. Number one is going to look at the specific page that you give it, but it's also going to zoom out and look at your overall online presence. And is going to tell you where there are some things that may need to be tweaked. It's going to tell you exactly what you need to do to ensure that you're going to outrank the competition and focus on how to really get ChatGPT and all those others to recommend you. So what I
And
did
Brad,
was
just to
I
let everybody know, I just added that to the chat so that they can grab that
perfect.
that link.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I will tell you, we just rolled this out literally this morning. It's our development team is like, what in the world did you do? It's been kind of being used a lot right now. And so if I have noticed sometimes that when you put information in, you can it may give where it doesn't give anything
I think it's like
back.
you might see an error because we're
Yes,
all
if you get an
we're all
error, it's just because we've got a lot of people using this tool right now. So just try again. They're working right now on increasing some bandwidth and everything, so we can make sure we're serving everyone. But it's taken off so far. So that you may see that. Just try again. Again, it doesn't take any credits or anything away from you. So just try again and it will yeah, I haven't it's rare that it happens, but I did have it happen to me once. So anyway, you put your information in, and this is what, and we're going to walk through what you're going to get back and what's so important about this. So it's going to give you an overall grade. Honestly, that's just kind of a broad score. We're going to get into the important part is the meat and potatoes down here. So the very first thing is how it sees you again without any type of a external search or anything like that. This is just what it knows about you. So this is kind of your AEO preview of how AI sees you. So someone says, "Hey, I'm looking for a realtor in Raleigh." Then they've got an established presence, comprehensive services, positive testimonials, a solid choice for real estate needs in Raleigh, long history, blah, blah, blah. So, whatever this is, and here's like relocation and luxury homes, you may want to consider top rated agents. Okay. So, immediately, if Linda says, I don't like to focus on relocation, I like to focus on just sellers or anything like that, we know there's a bit of a disconnect. Thankfully, Linda is we are in a very heavy relocation market, so we immediately see that, and then she likes to skew a little bit more towards that higher end price point. So it's good. Again, if she's trying to go after first-time home buyers, then we're showing an immediate disconnect here. So then the next thing it's going to do is it's going to show, in addition to you, who are the main competitors. And we actually go in and we query ChatGPT and Gemini to see, and you'll see in a lot of these, like in Gemini, Jim Allen, um, and then Compass was here, Fomble is in both. So you can kind of get an idea, an objective view of this. The reason why we do this is if you, just like how Google search works, if I have been talking about Linda Craft, or if I've been talking about, if I am Brad Carroll Realty and I am in Raleigh and I go ask my chat GPT who is the best agent in Raleigh, it's probably going to say Brad Carroll Realty because it's taking, remember what we were talking about, it's taking all of this additional information in. So the great thing about this tool is it gives you a broader, zoomed out version so where you can objectively see where your competition is, and who and more importantly why they are ranking and showing up when someone is looking at for a realtor in the area, etc. So,
And Brad, just to point that out, I think one of the things that we were discussing too is when you're looking at this competition analysis, you're not going to see obviously your name there. It is
right.
only positioning the people that you are competing with. So when you're seeing that first, second, third place, and why you're not falling in that, this is only your competition.
Good point. Good point. Yes, this doesn't mean that if like we saw, Gemini is ranking River Wild as the top result, you will never see yourself in there because this is specifically looking at your competitors, a competitor analysis, not an overview of ranking. So thank you for pointing that out. These are your top three competitors on Gemini and your top three competitors on ChatGPT. And then again, most importantly, why they're showing up as number one. And that's the great thing is like we want to know, and I get this all the time where someone's like, I searched for and Google for Raleigh real estate and John Smith showed up. Well, John Smith hasn't sold a house in ages. Why in the world are they showing up? And there's a bit of a black box there. With AI, we can actually give it and ask it why they're ranking these particular things. So Jim Allen, one of the it says high volume of sales. I think he's like not only leading the highest sales in the area. I think Jim is in the top three of highest sales for Coldwell Banker in the entire country, and so that kind of checks out. Strong online reviews, extensive market reach. Alan Tate has strong SEO performance. Fomble has a wide network, so you can see high client satisfaction. So all of these markers, remember, is going back to kind of what we talked about in that experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And so it's going to show that, and then it's going to give you an overview of how competitive your market is. Raleigh is obviously an extremely competitive market, and so you've got large teams and brokers vying for market share, blah blah blah, and so it gives the again the why. Strong online presence, positive reviews, comprehensive, and so if Linda is, and we're analyzing Linda's site here, it's saying, Linda needs to continuously enhance online visibility and reputation to maintain that competitive edge. The good news is that she does, currently has a very active and strong recommendation in AI, but to the point of this feedback here, it's not necessarily, hey, I did this once. It's a continual thing because of her market, how competitive it actually is. So after that, it gives we give kind of our top three, that's going to have that like how easy is it and what kind of impact. So she's got a very good, really well optimized brand right now. So nothing is going to have a really high impact because she's already taken care of those things. But including some a little bit more of those local terms on her homepage, featuring those neighborhoods on her homepage. Focusing on client testimonials a little bit more predominantly, higher up in the fold. And then this is actually interesting as far as one thing that, again, going back to kind of that expertise and authoritativeness, et cetera, is not just saying, "Hey, I sold, you know, 300 homes last year," but citing those sources, or not just, I think her site, talks about like over $1 billion in real estate transactions, but it's we need to better substantiate that. Like just anybody can say, not that she's lying, she's actually telling the truth, but anybody could theoretically go in and say, "Hey, we sold $2 billion of homes, blah blah blah," and so that's where it's talking about that. So,
And Brad, the other thing is, it's really thinking when we're trying to optimize for AI, we're not just trying to optimize for AI just for the fact of optimizing for AI. The whole reason why AI determines these markers is because it is trying to provide the best value for the consumer. So if we're providing value for the consumer, ultimately we're going to hit those markers in AI. So
totally.
as a consumer, if I'm looking at Linda Craft's site and she's talking about 1 billion in sales, well, I want some verification of that, being able to
Yes.
backlink over to those previous sales that I can take a look at. AI is just saying the consumer's going to want to know and see what that looks like. And so that's where having that backlinking and that information is so important.
Well said. And I mean, again, there is that like as SEO is equal to AEO is equal to HBO. So like the human behavior is you hit the nail on the head. It's exactly is like AI isn't just going to trust, sure, she said $1 billion. Like,
Mhm.
how do you back that
Yeah.
statement? Just like you, if you're about to hire Linda Craft, and you're not going to be like, "Oh, well, if you say so, yeah, I'll go ahead and just blindly sign the contract." Like, no, you're going to do your due diligence. So they go such hand in hand. Yep. So
Mhm.
the next piece is going to be the target audience. This is going to be super important because, again, one of the worst things that I see is we'll talk when a new client comes in and they say, "Hey, here's our goal. Here's our target audience. Here's what we want to focus on." But yet their website is talking to a totally different audience. And so, again, this is going to, it takes the site and analyzes, does sentiment analysis and reviews and says, based off of the copy, based off of the messaging, based off of the images being presented, all of those things, what is it that you're targeting and how does an AI interpret that? And the reality is not, again, not just how an AI is going to interpret that, but just naturally as the consumer, am I going to resonate with that copy and et cetera? So it is, you'll notice a theme here that talks about middle to upper middle class, established families, those looking to downsize. She does the experience level is a very broad, which could be a good or a bad thing, first time home buyers to experienced homeowners. But one of the things that you'll see is in her copy, where she could potentially be missing people is the analytical buyers who are seeking very detailed information and first-time home buyers. There's not a lot of, in her site is just because this is who she's targeting, but she doesn't have a tremendous amount of like warm, fuzzy, we'll hold you by the hand, we'll educate you every step of the way. Yes, she does that, but her ideal target audience is that like the the downsizer, the people who are established, the people who have probably done two or three real estate transactions. So they don't need that handhold, like, here are the 5 steps to buy a house, because they're like, no, I care and value more about like time and convenience and expertise on a different level. So,
Hey Brad, real
yep,
quick too, because Heather, she had asked a couple of questions. One, she was saying she's doing this now. She doesn't understand what to do about the results. So I think she put that in a little bit earlier. So we're walking through that.
yep.
But then her follow-up question was, do we need to run this on every individual page, or is this analysis just of the main page on the website? So I think this sort of goes into what you're even saying now.
Yep. So the two things that this does is it looks at the page, and then what we do is we zoom out and also look at your online presence. So it's about a like it's a 60/40, 70/30 kind of a split where the majority of it, 60 to 70%, is going to be on that specific page. And then the balance is going to be also kind of looking at the overall, as we go through, it talks about the action items. It's going to say, your reviews on Zillow and some of that. So it will also do that. But the short answer is, I would say, I'm shooting myself in the foot because that just means we're going to incur more credits here, but it's worth it. I would say do this on your main pages. So if you have a pay-per-click landing page that you're driving people to, or your buyer page, obviously your home page, those key pages where you're getting a lot of traffic, yes, I would run this additionally, multiple times on each individual page, where you're going to get those. You'll see some commonalities, which is good, but it will look at those individual pages. So yeah, and we're going to talk about, okay, great. You're telling me what's wrong. Well, now how do we fix it? Now, and there's going to be, as we go through, there's going to be some additional action items that specifically talks about how to do this. But here, the big thing here is, are you aligned with what you think you're aligned with, right? So this is, it's going to be a mix of analytical and emotion. So they do a good job of that broader range. She's a brokerage, so they do have to do that. If you have an individual, if you're an agent with an individual site, you may only focus on first-time homebuyers. I think that's fantastic. Or you may have a page, and this is a good thing why you should do it on multiple pages. If you have a first-time homebuyer page, but it's not talking about emotional and all of that, if the emotionality is neutral on a first-time homebuyer, we're missing the mark. You need to go in and fluff up your content a little bit. So looking at bias, relocating her primary audience, her secondary luxury home buyers and sellers, senior citizens. Look at this downside. Like, this is 100% in line with what Linda wants. So I think we're really good. Resonates with these audiences. Yes, perfect. Might miss here, and that's okay. Try If you try to be all things to all people, you will fail miserably. We are real estate, like Dakno is focused on real estate marketing, so we build real estate specific tools. If we were trying to be a marketing company for everyone, we would miss the mark. So it's the same thing with you. Don't try to be all things to all people. I think it's always good to make that focus niche. Then if you scroll down a little bit more, so it's going to give you some key insights, and tells you if there's anything you need to do. Scroll down a little bit more. Again, you want to make sure this is aligned with what you're focusing on. So your primary keywords based off of your online presence, your geography keywords. She has a lot because, again, she's a brokerage that covers a broad area. Her service specific, so luxury is the very first one. And so, these are some of the others, but you can kind of make sure again, are you focused on those? Is that the markets that you want to serve? This I love because it will uncover some blog content, some additional long tail keywords that we can focus on, and then some competitive words of Raleigh real estate, homes for sale and carry, et cetera, et cetera. Gives you some action items. So right now it's just been so far. Of course, it does give you action items, but it's going to give you that that broad overview to make sure you're aligned with what you're focusing on. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is when it gets to these are the specific things that you need to focus on. And if you do, then you have a greater chance of getting recommended. Um, so this is I mean like I was doing this and uncovering all kinds of great information, yesterday when we were testing this. So I'll give you a good example under that experience. It says while the years of experience have mentioned specific transaction volume data and detailed case studies are not predominantly featured across the site. In other words, we're telling them, but are we backing it up with data? So on the homepage, we probably need to focus on like we've got I was already thinking about this for Linda. Jeff Wilson, another client, he's got a map of all the homes that he has sold, and you can click and see the date he sold it, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't get much more kind of like actually proof is in the pudding than that. So instead of just saying, "Hey, Linda sold $1 billion worth of real estate" or whatever her magic number is, showing specific transactions and actual case studies, something that she can benefit from. And here's all the things that she's doing well. She's, like Google can actually see she doesn't just say she's been in business since 1985, like the Wayback Machine, all these tools that Google can actually verify that. So that's a good thing. We do have testimonials, sold properties, etc. And again, based off of this, can't really look at the exact transactions. So, and then here's the this is the actual evidence. So it is searching, it's going out, not just looking at the site, but it is doing the AI is doing Google searches to see, that she's returned a lot of sold properties and everything like that. Um, so, here's her expertise. She's got a blog. That's great. She's got neighborhood pages. Great. That neighborhood pages, information in each could be stronger. This is the big one. Her certification designation of team members are not predominantly described. That's a great takeaway. So Google or AI and again SEO and consumers, they want to see what certifications or designations do you actually have? And so it's gone out and looked at the actual evidence. Okay, is she an authority? So the homepage again features lots of media outlets and all of that, suggesting media mentions. However, it says that the information on, okay, yes, she's been featured on New York Times and ever. Well, what are the links to that? Like again, the proof is in the pudding. And so she says, like, we need higher backlinks. We need to go in and actually link to those, and then talk about like when Linda is speaking at Star Power or what have you, she needs to link over to Star Power and the fact that she's a prominent speaker and star of Star Power, that will help build authoritativeness. Um,
Hey, Brad,
yep.
just one point on that too, because I know we've talked to a lot of our clients about you don't want to just send traffic somewhere else. So
Yep.
there is you can still backlink, you can still send traffic over or still show AI traffic, not the consumer traffic. We can still link over, and there's ways to do that without just making that third party link so huge. But we just like you would do when you're citing something in a paper, you're just going to have that footnote or that subscript that's going to link over to that,
So,
so that
and
AI
I'm
does.
so 100%. I'm so glad you mentioned that because this is like, I will say, like, I've been doing this for 25 years and I've never think that I've learned it all, but I would say that I'm pretty, I'm pretty savvy when it comes to search engine optimization and everything. One of the things that I have learned from this and is actually my views have changed. If you would have said 6 months ago, should you link to your Zillow profile or realtor.com? I would say no. We don't want to send traffic off of your site. We don't want to send them to the Zillow where they can look at other agents or anything like that. However, if again you hit the nail on the head, citing your sources, if
Mhm.
if there is an Amy Cookman realestate.com and then there is a Zillow profile called Amy Cookman, well, AI can guess and say, I'm 90% certain that this Zillow profile that I'm looking at that says Amy Cookman is also the Amy Cookman that owns Amy Cookman Real Estate, but I can't be 100% certain. But if your website links over to your Zillow profile, now AI goes, yep, I have confirmed that this is, the same Amy Cookman. So this here, I will admit, I have officially changed my stance on this, where I think it is important to link to, your profile on these sites. Now, with that said, I wouldn't have some giant like find me on Zillow or anything like that because I still think you shouldn't, do that and send traffic off. But I love what you just said, and I want to draw a lot of attention to it because you kind of just said it in passing. Is like footnote that, where it's like if you're X number of transactions on Zillow, put a little one there, and then at the footer, just like in good old in college when we had to cite our sources out of our papers, then you link the one to Zillow profile, so no one is actually going to click on that, or very few humans are going to click on that. But search engines and ChatGPT and AI will click on that for that confirmation. So,
And Brad, just, I mean, to point out, because I know everybody is getting just so much information on what to do and how to optimize and what are the like the quick tricks that you can do to sort of trick AI into to finding you. Something as simple as this, it might seem like it is simple, but this actually provides even more value than you going in and writing, have ChatGPT write five, blog posts that don't really have a lot of substance to it. This is verifying what your body of work, what you've done. Just having that is such a simple but yet an important part of showing AI.
yeah. Everybody is looking. I get it. Everybody wants to know the magic bullet. Everybody wants to know if I can just do X, if I can just
Mhm.
create five things, will it get me to the top? The reality is that it doesn't work that way because if you have five blog posts that say who is the best agent in Raleigh, Brad Carroll is, well, then what happens if 10 people do that exact same thing? Well, of course it's not going to work. And so, they can only choose one. So this is as close to the magic bullet as you can by literally just going in to looking at these alerts and going, oh, I am not linking my Zillow profile. Update my website to link to it. Oh, I don't have my license number. Well, I need to put my whether, and we typically will only put the license number in when it was required. Well, you know
Mhm.
what? From now on, every stinking site that we design, we're going to have the license number on the footer because that is now a strong signal to AI that again, it's one thing to say I'm great, I'm the best, but it is actual validation that says, yes, Linda Craft, actually, this is her brokerage license, or this is actually, John Smith's license, real estate license. So,
Hey,
I
Brad, I
think
got a
that just
couple of,
go in those.
of
Yep.
things real quick that I think are important. So Heather asked, how deep into your site do the LLM search, or do you want to front load the homepage? That's a
Good,
great
good
question.
point. So LLMs, and I love this. And I was kind of studying this, and it was funny because again, there's so much parallel between AI and humans that it's borderline scary. Think about when you start to read a blog. The first couple sentences you're intently reading, and as you get down, just genuinely get a little bit lazy and skim that, right? AI does the same thing. So there was a couple of times when we were testing this where Amy, you actually said, "Hey, it told me that I need more testimonials, but look here on the bottom of the page, we've got five testimonials. What gives?" Well, the reality is that at the top, we feed all of the data into the LLM, but towards the bottom, it starts getting lazy. But the interesting thing is, what parallel? I mean, don't we do that as humans also? And so when you talk about like the same thing with your website, Yes, front load the information. If it is important, put that thing right smack at the very top of your homepage because guess what? Not only is the LLM going to focus more heavily on that, but the human is going to focus more heavily on that because they're likely to see the most important thing when they first go to the site versus by the time they get down, they'll be likely just skimming and everything. And again, AI works the same way. So definitely front load the important information at the top there.
Heather also asked, and this is good, do they look at menu structures?
Yes, they do. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it goes back to yes, they look at the menu and they scan all of that. But just like a human, if
Mhm.
I go to lindacraft.com or whatever, and on here the fifth thing down is or 10th thing down is buying with pets, and that's the only time we mention buying with pets like as a human, I'm not going to think that Linda absolutely loves her pets and all. I mean, not that she doesn't, but you know what I'm saying? Versus if she had an entire on the homepage a photo with her and like she does the photography day and all that kind of stuff. She's like, oh, she's a dog mom, right? So then there's going to be that thing. So if it is hidden in your menu, then a human's not going to really pay a lot of attention to it, and AI is not going to pay a lot of attention to it versus like leading with market stats or whatever that key thing is on the site. Like we lead with Linda's value proposition, boutique services. She's not trying to be big corporate America, and that's her value proposition. So that's why it's at the top. So yeah, if it's
But
important to
I was
you,
going to say,
put it in
Brad,
there.
one of the things is obviously if you have a lot of content and you've got a lot of resources, you can't cram everything into the menu. So being able, Google AI is going to look at what is important. That doesn't just mean in the menu, but if you're talking about pets and you have it one time in the menu, but she is backlinking throughout that site to that pet
Yes.
page,
Yes.
AI is going to be able to find it. The consumer's going to be able to find it. Google's going to be able to find it, and it's going to be important. And so
Yeah.
that's just again, come back to that human experience on how do you want to get your consumer to find the information that you're trying to provide them.
But I agree 100%, but it goes back to what I call like the red dot theory is that if I took a page and I
Mhm.
put one red dot on the page, everyone's eyes are going to go to that red dot, right? If I put three red dots, you're still going to be focused on that. If
Mhm.
I littered that page with 1,000 red dots, then, and I said what's important, it's not the red dots that are important. It's probably going to be the part of the page that I hadn't put the red dots on, right? So
Yeah.
if you try to cram everything as like there has to be a hierarchy at the end of the day, right? So it's just like this, like there's all these things that we can do, but the goal of this tool is to tell you what is the hierarchy? What are the most important things to rank well in AI? Just like Linda, what is her hierarchy? What's the most important thing is that she's, the company has been around, it's well established, and it's still that boutique service. So, and that's why like everything is like this whole like Linda through the years, and she's, like her big hair and blah blah blah, and her like all that we're trying to share that like longevity and that's the messaging and in that case that's more important. She loves pets, but this is more important than pets, so there has to be a good hierarchy there.
Heather Kyle asked this question, and Heather, we literally just got this tool together today, but I appreciate like this is definitely something that we will look into the future. She's asked, is there a way that she can share the results?
So I thought about that as well to if you want to share that with your web developer or anything like that. We are that's on the roadmap, and so we're going to include that. The team is trying to figure out because it's a lot of data how best to store all that data right now, but
But
it's
you can
definitely
print the
coming.
page. So that is something that
Yep.
you can do on, if you're on, whether it's Google, Chrome, Safari, whatever, just print the page. And that way, at least you have all that content there that you can and keep and refer to.
Yep. And so For what I would say is pay heavy attention. I know, like, I feel like we're kind of beating Linda's side up because we're immediately going to the red stuff and kind of glazing over the green stuff. She's doing a lot of great things, but we purposely say, like, your site could be 100% perfect and we're still going to find three things that's wrong with it. So like no
Yeah.
matter what, it's designed to show what could be even improved even more. So if you these are the most important things though. So if you put your profiles on there and you come back, it may show something different, but just keep plugging away at that. But these are the most important things. Then it gives some action items at the end as far as like, the see your instant home value probably could be more predominant on the homepage. I like these because these are, again, we really lean into when we're going to just like, even if it's not as flashy and be like, these are the 8 things. If you do this, you'll be ranked #1 tomorrow. And like, that's not how we're not the snake oil salespeople thing. We're going to show actual value. So a lot of these are really kind of focusing on like, how do you actually get better results from a human factor? So saying, hey, maybe that button be a little bit larger and kind of focus a little bit more on that see your home value. Um, Add that team member certifications like designations. Probably if like the key thing, and I think it did a great job here, is it goes back to like don't just tell me, prove it to me, right? So
Mhm.
that's kind of the big takeaway here is that, showcasing actual certifications, designations, all that kind of stuff. So those are the key action items. But guys, I know this is a little bit different than, again, if you just create 5 pages, you'll show up magically #1 tomorrow. That is designed to get you to swipe your credit card. This is designed for actual results. So again, this is probably the closest thing to that like magic bullet that actually gives you things to do here. And then just like I said, go in and make sure that what you are expecting is what AI is giving that back. If there's a disconnect, then you may want to look at, how do we tweak the verbiage? How do we be a little bit more sappy and all that stuff if that's what you want? Linda's not that type. She's a little bit more of a get down to business type, person. So this works for her. But if she's the goal is something different, if there's that disconnect, then this will help you to kind of uncover those. So, Amy, I know you've kind of been going through a lot of questions, and I haven't been paying attention to the chat or the Q&A. We got a few minutes left. Did we cover everything or?
I think we did cover everything. I was just going back through just to make sure we didn't miss anything. Of course, this is a great tool. To Brad's point, there's a lot of information, a lot of data there. If anybody has any question, needs help interpreting that, wants help with action items or anything like that, please reach out to me or my team. And we're definitely there to help walk you through a lot of that. One of the reasons why we did create this was because we had a lot of our clients that would just go into ChatGPT, throw in a page, it would give it results. But a lot of times, I mean, one of the things about AI is great. And it gets it right about 90% of the time. And then the other 10% of the time, it likes to hallucinate on things. And so we wanted to give you guys a tool that you could actually use and gave you accurate information and really good next steps on how to improve that website presence and AI presence.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that, Amy, because that's an important piece where the when you're asking ChatGPT, hey, give me feedback on this page, there's two things that are going to be kind of the Achilles heel on that. Number one is what we talked about, kind of that section that has your memories, your history, and all that. It's going to skew heavily to that, which could give you some inaccurate results. And then two, it will we always say that AI is always confident and sometimes right. It's going to take one snapshot and then kind of infer that across your entire site and so if you knew the work that went into this tool of just getting it grounded to say, hey, give us accurate results, don't just hallucinate, where we were getting back of like, oh, you don't have testimonials or you need this and this on the page. And we're like, there's an entire section of that. It said that Riverwild didn't have any neighborhood pages when we first started building this tool, is because it looked at one thing and then inferred, across the board. So we've worked hard to kind of make it a lot more accurate than just kind of the natural, like, hey, here's these things. Because it just, again, AI, if left to its own demise, is going to do the things that are most common. So if it, if there's training data that shows, hey, the most common themes on real estate sites is not having title tags or not having schema or whatever, it will always say that regardless. You could have the best title tags. You could have, a social media schema and all that kind of stuff. But guess what? It's going to say, you need to have schema. You need to have this and this. And so it doesn't do you any good to say, this is what 90% of sites don't have. We want to say this is specifically for your page and your presence. And so that's why we built this. So feel free to share it. Like I said, it's being heavily used now. So if you do come across an error, just try again. Our team's working diligently to ramp up to make sure we've got plenty of resources and everything to do that. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. Obviously, this is one of many tools. So here's my shameless plug for DAC Lab. If you find this helpful and see some of those other tools, definitely consider signing up. Use that coupon code DACNO. That way you get a lot more value out of that. And I think it's like almost a 50% discount as to what anyone else would have to pay for it. So consider that. If you got any questions, let us know. I think, Amy, that wraps it up with 1 minute over.
I know. I was going to say that one other thing too is if you are on DAC Lab, make sure you check your emails from DAC Lab so that that way you get those updates on different tips and such. So,
Yep.
all right.
Awesome. Cool. All
Thanks,
right. Well,
everybody.
I will talk to you all later. Thank you so much. Bye bye.